welcome to City Life. Thank you for joining us today, this last day before the long Queen's Birthday weekend. Today on the programme we have a television exclusive interview with Christchurch City Councillor Sue Wells. Warwick Isaac from CERA is here to talk about demolition in the city, and a very special guest, Margaret Mahey. But first on the programme, a retail perspective on the rebuild of Christchurch. Welcome to the programme, Mary Devine.
Good morning.
So Ballantynes, now how badly hit was that in the earthquake?
Our main building is fine. So Ballantynes is actually a couple of buildings in one. So the main building that borders Colombo Street and City Mall is very good. But we do have a problem with one of our buildings, which is actually from Litchfield Street into Guthrie Centre. So we basically walk into Home Linens and the China area, and potentially we are looking at bringing that part of the building down.
Okay, will that be rebuilt?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, you had just taken over your role at Ballantynes. What was that like for you to, well, just a couple of weeks later, 10 days later, the earthquake to have struck?
It's been challenging, to say the least, but in some ways it's also been an opportunity for me because the staff, everyone's pulled together very quickly. So in adversity, I do think, we've become a very strongly knit team. So yes, it's certainly been challenging, but been very fortunate in the fact of the staff of Ballantynes, and Richard Ballantyne obviously is there as the guiding hand. So now we feel very much part of a team, and I think it's been really good because it's allowed particularly with the management team to run fast and pick up different areas. So we've certainly still worked very much as a collective.
Ballantynes is a well-missed store at the moment. What's the activity with the business at the moment? Oh,
there's lots on the go. I think we've been quite innovative. The team came up with an idea about 2 months ago called the Girls' Day Out, and that was we were doing bus trips down to our Timaru store, so every Thursday and Sunday, and they've been a huge hit. So we generally have a blue bus and a pink bus, and our team basically compare on the way down, but we have different suppliers that are involved as well. So yeah, they're really informative. They might talk about accessories on one bus. Mac and Bobby Brown have also been part of it. So yeah, it's a real mix, but it's a great day out. They get some bubbly and high tea on arrival in Timaru, so really good. And I think the other thing, because we have 400 staff in Ballantynes, so keeping everyone busy, we've had quite a large contingent that have been working out of our Timaru store. So it's been really lovely. Our customers have walked into the store and seen the familiar faces as well from Christchurch. So yeah, no, that's been a great hit. And
you've also had limousine rides down there. I've heard the rumour is that there were some limo rides down to Timaru.
Yeah, it's been a real mix. It has been the limo ride. Some of that's been arranged from individuals, and we've got to know about it, so we've tried to assist along the way. So yeah, many and varied ways of having that Timaru excursion, but it's been fantastic and certainly great for the business.
And of course it's a great place to go, Timaru, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm from there, so I'm allowed to say that.
Oh no, well it's great, and because we've had this opportunity, we've put a whole lot of new brands into the Timaru store, so our locals in Timaru think it's fabulous because they're getting more exposure to brands and product than they've ever had before. So yeah, it becomes a win-win.
Will that stick around in Timaru, in the Timaru store, those brands?
Yeah, we'll certainly keep predominantly most of the brands. We've been very fortunate. Mac and Bobby Brown Clinique have all gone into Timaru, and before that they wouldn't allow us to go into our Timaru store, but they've been a real success. So we are hoping now that we can prove ourselves through this time that we'll be able to maintain some of those key brands as well.
So what are some of your activities around Christchurch?
Oh, there's been a lot. We've had a valuation kiosk that we set up in Miraval, and that's just really for people to assist with their valuation, particularly a lot of their china and so forth. So we've had quite an experienced team there that's just been working one-on-one, just working through insurance claims for people. And they've been very, very busy, and it actually hasn't petered off. So we'll keep that kiosk going, I think, for a number of months to come. We've got a cafe that we've opened, our JB's Cafe in Riccarton Mall.
Okay, great.
And again, it was a way that just keeping, we have some fabulous hospitality staff, and the fact that normally we would have 4 cafes in our store. So yeah, that's going really well. And again, it's just been a nice touch point for our customers back with our staff, and we've had an information kiosk there as well. Then our beauty salon is up and running at Hollylee, their retirement village. So you end up in a myriad of places around town nowadays, don't we?
Yeah.
So they've been doing really well. They had a salon there that they said it wasn't used that often, and so they've been wonderful. And so we have our team of girls set up there.
Great.
And then our tailoring and interior design ladies have all been working from home, and we're fortunate we could get out of the building sort of all of our outstanding work and that tailoring area in particular.
Great.
So those teams have been working from home. So yeah, it's never ending. And probably the big project we've got 2 big projects coming up, but the big one is we're planning a large sale.
Oh, really?
So we've been fortunate, we've been able to get back in the store and retrieve quite a bit of stock. And particularly on the women's floor, it was all winter, so we're conscious we really need to move that on. So we're planning a big sale at CBS Arena.
Tell me more. When is it?
14th of June.
Okay,
so,
I have to get down
yeah, so it goes for 6 days. So the staff are quite excited about that. So
now you'll be looking forward to restart 2019-11 when the whole City Mall is reopened.
Yep.
Tell me about your involvement with that.
We've been heavily involved with it. I think the great thing is, prior to the earthquakes, the property owners had been working collectively together over the whole look and direction of City Mall. So there was already a sort of a working team. And then post the earthquakes, I think that team is knitted together even stronger. So we have been heavily involved. So it's the property owners, it's retailers, and we were fortunate to really get the support of government and obviously our local city council to say let's have a target for 2019. So pre-Cup week that we can open City Mall. So it's basically from Colombo Street through to the Bridge of Remembrance. So yeah, we're excited about that, and I think it just, we think it's a symbol of hope that, we can see, progress and, an opportunity for people not only to shop, but, I think the hospitality segment in there will be important as well.
Okay, and finally, how are your staff coping?
Oh, they've been amazing. It's fairly basic, the office environment that we're working out, and certainly, the team have been great. We've been on trestle tables and swapping uses of computers and things. We've got a little bit more settled now. But you can imagine we've had staff that are, doing a couple of days in Timaru to a kiosk to stock taking out of a warehouse. So, but they've really approached. I've been so impressed, and I think we're so fortunate that they've just done anything possible. So. Yeah,
that's good.
And
so
good.
Yeah, that's good. So good to have you on the program. I'm looking forward to that sale.
Okay, thanks, Anita.
Now I'd like to welcome to the program Senior Sergeant John Robertson. Now I believe that you had a lot to do with CTV before the earthquake.
Yeah, it's I was here every Friday for a long time, and it's so sort of more like family and friends really than workmates or whatever. So yeah.
Wow, it's good to have you here. Now tell me about your role with the New Zealand Police.
I've got the best role in the police ever. I look after youth services and so anyone under 17, and also the iwi and ethnic liaison staff. So it's just I meet some amazing people in the community, and it's awesome. How
the people that you deal with, the young people, how have they been affected by the quake?
Just like everyone else, their stress levels are high, their patience is short, they are a bit quick to answer back, and I think parents are quick to do the same. But they're going through just the same as everyone else is.
How can parents and caregivers sort of help out in this area?
We just have to be tolerant, and like, you talk about quite a cool expression I like is this earthquake brain, which seems to be an excuse for everything that you forget to do. and I know myself, like, you sit in the office doing your work, and I've got the attention span of a mouse at the moment, like all of a sudden you get goes off in a bit of a gaze, remembering stuff. And we just need to remember with parents, kids are the same, and we just need to be tolerant to the fact that they are going through all this, but it also means that we need to make sure that they are finding some things in their life which are important, and for me, school is one of those. School is a very important constant that we need them to be in. Okay,
and a lot of sort of family routines have been disrupted. How can we sort of work around this?
Yeah, it's what is the new normal, isn't it? And routines are a nightmare, aren't they? And they're all over the place. The school's been doubled up and the like. But it's so important to try and establish those routines. And although sometimes it'll be really tempting to keep your young person at home and say, actually, I'll just have a day with me today, we really need to try and get them all back in and hooked into the school. You know, the schools across our city are doing, you know, just a stunning job. They really are. There's heaps of support. They're really understanding, but they're a key part in getting young people into routines.
With these schools doubling up, how are you finding that?
Oh, it's exciting. Like it's really busy, and I just in awe of them really, because you look at, you know, they got it sorted. They really did. But it's the young people and particularly the ones that are doing the afternoon shifts. You know, I live in Parklands, and there's, you know, a lot of them out around there, and they're not getting home to very late, and they're tired and they're worn out and they're out of their routines. But they're doing well, and I'm very proud of them all.
What are some practical tips from you for, you know, young people and their families at the moment?
For families, bite your tongue.
Yeah.
It's really important. So, as a parent, it's incredibly hard to do. You know, like everyone's stressed all over the place, and invariably it's our loved ones that we bite back on when maybe we shouldn't. You know, so, you know, bite your tongue, be patient, be understanding. But if you're stuck, ask for help. You know, it's a key thing.
And your day-to-day role with the police, what are you up to at the moment?
Well, it's we're just running this cool training course at the moment, and for youth education staff, which go and teach it at all the schools, and we're based there at Hillmorton High. So they've hosted us because the station's chocker and there's no room anywhere in it.
Wow.
So Hillmorton came on board and said, hey, come and host it, and so they're hosting us, which is just fantastic. You know, it's really good. So I was just out there before I came here, and to see our police officers getting some training, and we're having a family photo to start the course, and to see all the Hillmorton kids running around saying hello, it was fantastic.
What's it like for the young people having policemen at their school?
Well, I think they should quite enjoy it, really. You know, and they see that like, how do we learn stuff? We learn stuff. We sit down in a classroom and people teach us things. You know, it's exactly the same as what they do. They sit there and they learn, and they have a bit of banter and they have a bit of fun, but get some knowledge.
Now, finally, tell me about your experience with 60 Minutes.
Oh, well, this is not a funny story, but it was interesting because they did a whole thing on Natalia Burgess, who was quite well known for this Facebook situation, and really, it's the moral of the whole story is for parents to be aware of what their kids are doing on Facebook and the like. But it was interesting because they come along, so they filmed me, and we filmed for quite a long time, and then so I went home and told my kids, hey, I'm going to be on 60 Minutes, and made the mistake of telling a few other people, but as it turned out, they got to interview the offender in amongst all this too. So I got cut, left on the director cutting room floor. Most of my daughters, absolutely, she was beside herself in hysterics. It was so funny that Dad got cut.
Yeah, oh, that's a shame. You won't get cut from this.
I love you guys. Your family, it's awesome.
Now, I guess, I mean, that whole situation, it's really important to be really careful on Facebook, isn't it?
It is. The thing about Facebook is what people forget about it is the whole purpose of it is to share information. So as soon as you put anything on any sort of social media site like that, it's there to be shared, you know, and so it's not, although you might click a couple of buttons thinking that it's private, it's not, and you need to be aware that anything you put there can often be tagged by anybody else and used. And also you need to be really aware that what you're looking at may be a long way from the reality of what you're actually dealing with. Okay. And so for parents, just get on your kids. Don't ban them from Facebook. Don't, you know, that's just dumb. Don't do that. But do get on them and get them to show you what they're doing and show you their site. You don't want to see everything they write on it, it's just too scary. But make sure you have those good discussions with your kids.
And I think it's also important not to become friends with people you don't know as well.
Absolutely, and that's, you know, we get this crazy thing, we all try and stack up how many friends we can got, you know, like, I think I've got 6 at the moment, so
okay. I won't tell you how many I've got.
but on amongst it's to be aware of that, and it may well be that you have a private site, but all of a sudden one of your friends has a site which isn't private, and all of a sudden they can hook in right through. And the interesting thing with the whole thing with Natalia and all the work that's gone onto that is all the information that all the respective media found was via Facebook. They got the whole lot from Facebook. They got pictures of her, they tracked her down, her home address, you know, everything they found via Facebook.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And that's something which, as a parent, we need to be aware of ourselves, is what are we typing on there that could they could track us down on. So,
Right.
yeah, don't ban it. Just
don't.
have the discussion around it with the kids.
All right. I'm going to go home and check my privacy settings on Facebook.
I might try and get another friend.
Really good. Oh, actually, we are on Facebook, CTV City Live, so you can
I'll be
like
there.
us.
I'll be there.
Really good to have you here. We'll catch up with you again really soon.
Hope so. Congratulations, everybody. You've done a really awesome job.
Yeah, it's good to be
Cheers.
back. And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life and welcome to the program, the Headmaster of Christ College. Good to have you here.
It's very nice to be here.
So how's the college looking at the moment?
It looks a little bit unconventional compared to what it would look like before the earthquake. We've got a lot of temporary buildings on our quadrangle, which has caused a lot of controversy. But the boy community is really good. I mean, the school's functioning well. And give it a year, things will look much the same as they did before.
Tell me about this temporary accommodation, if you like.
Well, we had two buildings in the school were already being renovated and strengthened after September. And both of those were weakened as part of that process, so we lost them both. Oh. They didn't fall down, but they've since been demolished. And so we've got temporary accommodation while we build their replacement, which will probably take about a year. So it was disappointing not to get finished two projects that would have kept two very attractive buildings with us, but that's what we had to do.
Oh dear. So what are the temporary buildings like?
They're great. They're typical porter buildings. We all know about those in Christchurch. Yeah. And they're big enough for a class and for teacher working space as well. And the boys quite like them. They're lovely and warm and they're very convenient, and I get to watch a lot more boys going into their classes outside my room than I used to. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So it's good for everybody.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So how important is it, do you think, to preserve the buildings at Christ College?
Well, I always used to say to parents when they came round, and they'd always admire the buildings first, and I will have to stop saying what I used to say, which was, if we had the big one and it all fell down, we would still be there as a school. Well, that didn't happen, and it wouldn't happen because the buildings were strengthened, but the buildings aren't the school. However, we are fortunate enough to be the custodians of a range of quite significant buildings, which the college has looked after over many years. And we will continue to do that. And so, with what's happened in the rest of Christchurch, I think the significance of the buildings is probably even more than it was before, and that's something we will look after and hopefully share with everyone as we always have.
Now, talking about sharing, I believe you've become a base for some other businesses.
We have.
Really?
I'll tell Dean Peter Beck you think the cathedral is a business. But,
actually, as soon as I said that, I was like, wrong word.
No, we have a very close connection with the cathedral. We always have had. Of course, the school and the cathedral and diocese were part of the, along with the university, were part of the very start of Canterbury. So it was a comfortable mix for us. And we were able to offer our chapel, which after some minor renovation is back in business. And we've also given them the use of our boardroom, which manages to accommodate the whole cathedral staff, and it's working wonderfully well. Our chapel is doing 5 or 6 services each Sunday and during the week, and we're very pleased to be able to do it, and for however long it takes.
I must actually say I had Dean Peter Beck on the programme a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying how grateful he was to the college. So there we go. I do not think he's a business. Now, do you see the college as part of the regeneration of Christchurch?
I do, in that there is so much talk about history and legacy and the new city and everything else. It is important to be able to track the history of any community, and the college is a part of that. But I think from on a human scale as well, we are the nearest group of young people operating to the middle of the city. When we got the school back up and running, a lot of people said how nice it was to see young people coming and going around that, which had been desolate up to that point. So the sheer proximity to the middle, along with the heritage legacy of the place, I hope we would be thought to be important in the future of the city.
What about the academic impact on the students? I mean, you've had one in September, and now you have one in February. I mean, how's it been?
We did, and it sounds rather glib, but after the September one, which was a shock for everybody, and I think we've almost forgotten just how significant that was, with what happened since, we ended up having the best academic year we've had for some years, which was astonishing. Right? So this year, the event is much more significant. The time lost has been bigger. But I think the impact of it, the young people who I've met, not only at my school, but from other schools all over Christchurch, seem determined to demonstrate that they can do it. And the wonderful thing about NCA is it is flexible. You can move things around, you can negotiate, you can alter the way you do things. And both the ministry and schools have said there's no way that 2011 is going to be the soft year for NCA. And any youngsters who go through this year will justly get the credit they deserve for the amount of work they've been doing. We've called it a sustained culture of urgency at our place to try and catch up, and we're doing that. So the boys are very upbeat, staff are working very hard, but it'll all come good.
And you're a strong supporter of NCEA.
I am. Always have been ever since I came here. As always, what needs to be emphasised is it can embrace all types and capabilities of young people, from the very best up to some fairly modest ambition at the other end. And the fact that everyone is in the same system at the moment is a very unifying thing now as well. You know, we're all working on the same work, we're all doing the same things, we're all on the same programmes. All the boys, whatever their ability and aspiration, are on the same track. And it helps at times when things are as fractured as they are now.
Good. Well, Simon, really good to have you on the programme. Good to hear how Christ College is going.
Thank you for inviting me here, and well done to all of you for going. It's fantastic.
Thank you so very much. After the break, we meet up with Warwick Isaac from CERA. Welcome back to City Life, and I'd like to welcome to the programme Warwick Isaacs from CERA. Welcome.
Good morning.
Now tell me about your role.
Well, my role is around demolition and also cordon access and getting the casual restart program going.
So quite a big role.
It is a bit. It's a bit of a large role, absolutely.
Now, is this something that you were expecting to be doing?
No, not at all. No. I left my day job on the 23rd of February to help with civil defence, and haven't really got home since.
So how do you prepare for something like this kind of role?
Well, I'm part of the civil defence response team for Canterbury via the councils, and so the preparations around the training and the coordination of the various elements of civil defence. And so there's no training for the job I've got now. I don't think there's really a job description for it, to be honest, but yeah, you make it up as you go to a certain degree. Who
else is on your team?
So I've got a chap who looks after cordon management, so he looks after all access programs for residents and businesses. And then I've got another bloke who looks after the demolition side of the business for me. Okay,
so who's the person who makes the call about the buildings that have to come down? Is it you?
That's me.
So how do you make that call? I mean, what's the criteria?
So it's not an easy task. What we have is following on from the operations suburb, right in the very early days of civil defence, where engineers and building officials assessed all the buildings in Christchurch. So that's our base point we start from. We look for yellow and red placarded files, pull out those files, look at the engineers' reports in them, and then make an assessment as to their future based on that. Then we contact the owners to have a discussion with the owners. Also, we have previously got contact made with the insurance industry around protocols, so that if decisions are made, that they will stand behind the owners. Because of course we don't want owners out of pocket if they're insured, and so we've brought that industry along as well. And then so we make assessments based on all inputs from those folk, and then the decision is made: is it a make-safe situation for a building, or is it a partial demolition or a full demolition? Let's
look at the timelines around these demolitions. When do you hope all the buildings that need to be demolished to be demolished?
The determinant on that really is the very tall buildings, and obviously we've had Grand Chancellor announced last week, and that's a long-term job. That's somewhere between, depending on where you determine the height to be, sort of 7 to 10 months to do the ground. There's a safe zone which will be after about 5 months, so the building owners around, we're hoping, can get into the surrounding buildings when the height of the building is about half of what it is now. So my expectation that it will be in the order of 12 to 18 months from now that all the demolitions would have been completed. But as I say, it's the tall buildings that are going to determine the ultimate outcome.
Are you happy with that time frame, 12 to 18 months?
No, I'd always like things to be faster. It can't go fast enough for me. But at the end of the day, then some building owners are asking for some extended periods of time, particularly the high-rise buildings, so the engineers can make full assessments of a building. So a number of those, the engineers are overseeing propping works and stabilisation, so then they can get tenants' material out, because that's very important, obviously, for the tenants. Getting files out, that things like wills and legal files, those are the difficult things, because often you need the original. You can't rely on electronic backups. So it enables tenants to get bits and pieces out of buildings that are critical to their businesses moving forward. And then engineers go and they start stripping out the inside of the building, looking for the damage, so they take out the wall linings, the floors, the ceilings, just to see what the damage really is, and that can take quite a long time.
What would you say to those building owners who say that their building was demolished without their consent?
Look, that was very much in the early days, and there was an element of that, of course, when the CERA engineers were looking for folk that were perhaps might have been under the rubble.
Okay, let's look at the Restart project.
Yes.
Now, how are we looking?
Well, it's looking pretty positive. This week there's a road gone down through the mall, so we've taken up the street furniture. We're laid down 150 mil of gravel over the tram tracks and over the paving tiles, and so that's happening. That'll be finished this week, and then I'm hoping that demolitions will start next week. So we're just finalising our arrangements with owners there, and we're on target to have it open by show week.
So what's going to happen? So all the buildings that need to be demolished, which is if you're looking towards Bridge of Remembrance, it's that left-hand side, isn't it? That's the...
Well, it's both sides, actually.
It is
both sides, probably equally, to be honest.
Really? So they need to be demolished?
Some are full demolition, some are make safe, and there's one which will, one of the historic facades, we're looking at retaining that with the owner, and I think that'll be a good outcome for that building. So the facade will be left, and the future building behind will be sorted out later. Where there's holes in the facades, that's where there might be a temporary building put in on that site, and then there will also essentially containerised shopping experiences put in there for folk to go and spend their money and start the retail part of the city up again. Yeah,
that's right. Now finally, how have you found the success of the programs to get businesses inside the red zone?
Look, I think from our point of view it's been a great success. We've had in excess of 7,000 people in there. I know there's concern around some people being in there and some saying, well, we should all be allowed in there and what have you, but the people that are able to have been able to be in there so far, it's quite a managed process to ensure their safety. So I think it's been quite successful to date.
Okay, and the people that still need to get inside the red zone, any idea of when they'll be allowed in?
Well, anyone can go in pretty much if they have an engineer that says their building's safe to go to and they organise an access plan with us, they can go in any time. So there's actually no impediment to anyone getting in there if they have a good reason to get in there and the engineer says that it's safe for them to do so.
All right. Warwick, really good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Okay.
And we'll be back after this break. Welcome back to City Life and welcome to the program Eugenie Sage, a Green Party candidate for Selwyn and number 6 on the Green Party list.
Hello.
Welcome. So what issues will the Green Party be campaigning on in Selwyn?
The issue of fairness. We could have a much fairer economy if we move to a sustainable and smart economy, and one of the ways of doing that, which will be particularly relevant in Selwyn, is a charge on the commercial use of water. Because at the moment a lot of our tax is based on goods, people working in on their income. So it's shifting the tax base. And another issue, Selwyn obviously being an important area for dairying, major expansion proposed there with the Fonterra factory, and yet we're not bringing agriculture into the emissions trading scheme for another 2 or 3 years. So bringing it in actually sooner would stop taxpayers having to subsidise agriculture to the tune of about $2 billion. So it's fairness in the economy, a fairer society and a more sustainable, environmentally responsible New Zealand.
Why is this important for your electorate?
Because Selwyn's got the Waimakariri and Rakaia rivers. It's got 2 of the major aquifers, including the aquifer which provides Christchurch with drinking water, Te Waihora, Lake Ellesmere, Lake Forsyth, and there are major pollution issues in Te Waihora. There's tens of millions of dollars being spent on the Rotorua lakes and the Taupo, Lake Taupo.
And we've got similar issues in Waihora with major nutrient enrichment, yet a major expansion of dairying proposed with 80,000 hectares that Trustpower wants to be able to irrigate with its Rakaya Lake Coleridge scheme. So water is a very real issue in Selwyn, and at the moment we're getting a lot of economic gain from the use of water, but the environment's paying the cost of that.
Okay. How can we ensure the rebuild promotes sustainability principles?
Well, I think the Greens have raised that with the rubble from the reclamation being dumped in Littleton Harbour, and that went through Order in Council with very little effect, very little assessment of the effects, and we've had rubble, aerated concrete washing up around the harbour. So we've got to take care of those sustainability principles in the rebuild. It's a lot of public call for a greener Christchurch, making the city more rideable, more walkable, energy efficient buildings, low scale buildings. The Green Party's been running a series of forums with Dr. Andy Buchanan promoting greater use of wood in buildings, so that's a carbon sink too, and it makes the buildings just more sustainable because it's storing all that carbon. So it's making sure those principles come through in the forums that the City Council's running and the forums that the Green Party and others are running.
Yeah, let's look at the forums that you'll be running, the Revisioning Christchurch forums. Let's look at what will be presented there.
Well, we've had one in the inner city, and that was very popular, and it's a combination of people with expertise from the architecture area and heritage, Andy Buchanan at one, and people who can talk about the arts. We're having one in Littleton on the 19th of June and one in North New Brighton on the 13th of June on a Sunday afternoon. And people with expertise coming along and sharing their vision and then breaking into workshops so that people can discuss how they respond to that and their ideas. So it's making sure that we build a greener city and a more sustainable city that will last us for many, many decades to come.
How can we find out about these forums?
Look at the Green Party website, www.greens.org.nz.
Eugenie, really good to see you. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you, Camilla.
Welcome back and welcome to the program, Clayton Cosgrove.
Thanks for having us. Great to see you guys back on deck.
Good to see you too. How's your area going?
Well, it's pretty tough. It's Kaiapoi got hit on the 4th of September, got whacked pretty hard, and it dodged the bullet, got more of the same on the 22nd of February. And the surrounding areas, because I've got both Christchurch City and Waimakariri in my area. So Belfast and Redwood and Casebrook, Rangiora, Oxford Wood End, those areas got damaged, but more superficial generally. Some pockets of tough stuff, but superficial stuff. But it is tough for people. The council, the Waimak Council's doing an outstanding job. They were straight up with people, they got stuck into their community. Unlike Christchurch City, they said this is not business as usual, we're going to embed our people straight in the community. They communicated with them, they treated them with respect and said, right, we can listen to what you guys have to say, give us your ideas. They put those ideas into a pot, stirred it around and said, right, here's a plan, what do you reckon? Went back out to the community, and then they've developed a plan and a timeline. And what they've done, there's been some very tough meetings where people have been told, look, here's the plan, it's going to be a year before you get back to your house, could be 4 years before you get back to yours. And, you know, people have been in tears, it's been very tough for them, but they've been in support of the council because they've been given it warts and all, and they know there is a plan, and they can see some milestones. And we had a meeting last night. The council said, look, we think we can break ground on about the 28th of June. The 22 temporary houses are being built in the domain out there. They've got an open home, one of the little ones is open to let people have a squiz this weekend. Okay. So, you know, people can see there's momentum and it's happening. And I think the lesson for the powers that be in Christchurch is that there are 20 or so Kaiapois, if you like, around Christchurch metropolitan area. Sure. And the key thing from the international evidence is listen to people. And to those who say, look, consultation and listening to people and communication is going to hold the show up, well, that's bunkum. I asked at a select committee, the Mayor of Waimakariri, David Ayres, look, do you think all this consultation and engagement has held the show up? He said, look, I was elected in November. I was a bit sceptical. Looking back, it actually sped the whole process up because you're never going to get it. Engagement's not about agreement. It's about people being, you know, asked for their views, being given a fair go, and you'll talk to people in Kaiapoi and they'll say, well, I liked a little more of this and a bit less of that, but they're in support of the council because they've had a fair shake, and I think that's the key thing, and that's what will get us through and speed this up.
Well, because it's been 9 months since the big quake that sort of affected your area, so you are happy with how things are progressing?
Yeah, I think, look, to be generous to the government, the initial response was very good. I think the after the 4th of September, I think the communication and the information flows sort of collapsed throughout. Then hopefully they've learned a few things that you can't speculate, you can't tell, sort of say there could be 10,000 people moved from X to Y and then say, well, look, I've got no evidence for that statement. You've got to actually, it's better to shut up and wait till you've got the definitive information, high quality stuff that you can go out and say to people, okay, here's the deal, here's what we know, here's the plan to get you through it, here are your options, and present people with a package rather than sort of idly speculating about what might happen or what might not happen, because that winds people up.
What about what was in the budget this year?
Yeah, look, bucket load of money, about $5.5 billion, and look, we welcome that. I think everybody in Canterbury would welcome that. All the bases are now loaded though, and this is a good thing. We should be able to accelerate the recovery. Mr Brownlee is our earthquake czar. He has wartime powers. He can do anything, damn near. He has his own government department. He has a bucket load of cash. So I think the expectations coming from our community are, one, no more delays, no more excuses, secondly, and thirdly, we expect and the communities expect a massive acceleration in the recovery process. We've got a very good CEO of CERA, Mr Sutton. We, on my side of politics, I've worked with him for years. We support him. We think it was an outstanding choice. He's a person who listens, which is important, and a person who engages with his community and is straight up with them. What we want to ensure is that he's given a lot of rope to get on with it, not sort of having somebody tap him on the shoulder every 5 minutes and sort of looking over. Let him get on with it, because he's a Cantabrian like us all. He has worked in our community, and what he did with Orion and between the 4th of September and the 22nd of February and after that, stringing cables, getting people back online, you'd have to say was pretty outstanding.
What about what you're up to in your community? What's happening at Belfast School?
Oh, well, it's nice to be opening something rather than seeing it fall down. The people, the community at Belfast and Peter Simpson, the principal and the acting principal, Mark Kreber, have got and their staff have got a large administration block and classroom building finished. Belfast School's outstanding, great ERO report, wonderful high quality education, fantastic parents and teachers and kids. But things are getting a bit cramped there for a while, so they've got this fantastic new block that we opened on Friday, and kids full of enthusiasm. It's great to see.
And finally, there is a man exercising, is that what you call it? In Kaipoi. What's happening there?
Well, I was going to suggest that Jerry Brownlee come down and have a squiz, that Martin Keane on the exercycle might be instructive. Look, Martin's a lovely guy. He was a taxi driver. He was in the belly of the beast in town on the 22nd of Feb. He's lost his job as a result of the earthquake. Hell of a good-natured chap. He's doing 80 hours on an exercycle. I think us as politicians, we might struggle for 8 minutes, who knows, but, or 8 seconds. But he started at, I launched the thing for him at 9 o'clock on Monday. He finishes, I think, at 9:30 on Friday. He gets a break every half an hour for every 4 hours. He gets, and he's not the youngest guy I've ever met in my life, with no disrespect. He's done it before. He's doing it for the Red Cross to raise money for Canterbury. He's done it for Nurse Maud. I think he holds the world record for 124 hours on an exercycle.
Does he?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Amazing guy. I think he also did some fundraising for cystic fibrosis, I think, but it was certainly Nurse Maud. And just a neat human being who suffered himself and wants to give back. So as the icicles I'm going out to see him this morning again, see how he's check on the progress. As the icicles sort of hang off the nose and the frost, he's out there doing it. So just another amazing Cantabrian doing his bit.
We'll definitely send him our regards.
Absolutely.
And good to have you on the program.
Pleasure.
This week it was revealed that there is a 23%, that's almost 1 in 4 chance of another big up to magnitude 7 earthquake here in Christchurch in the next year. Now this information was given to only a few city councillors and community board members last week, but it was broken to the many, not by any traditional form of media, but via a blog, social media. Now this has caused quite a storm. Sue Wells, in this here a television exclusive. Did you expect that your blog would become so widespread?
The blog isn't really what's caused the concern. It's the way you just said that that's caused the concern. It's the translation of the blog. What you've just said there is almost a quarter and nearly 7. That's not what's in the blog. What's in the blog is that there's a 23% chance in the next 12 months of an earthquake of magnitude on the Richter scale, not the Mercalli scale, not a kilometre below ground, but just a Richter scale one, of between 6 and 7%. Okay, so that could be a 6. What it says is there's over 3/4 of a chance that there won't be one. The spin that's been put on it by different parts of the media has caused a lot of problem. I'm not saying you just did that, by the way, but that's the natural temptation. What's in the blog? That was a one line in a blog that was focused almost entirely on the decision-making process that's going on in land retreat in the eastern suburbs. That's a really big issue. We had a briefing which we do. Jerry Brownlee spoke to us. Roger Sutton was there. It was Roger who actually answered the minister's question. Jerry said, "What are those figures, Roger? Can you just repeat those statistics?" Roger did, and I put them in the blog, which, as I say, is quite lengthy, and that's one line in there. It fascinates me the way that certain sectors of the media pick up stuff like that and just go, they, you know,
But of course,
blows me away.
That's what we do, though. We pick up these stats and we repeat them. Why did you think that you should put it in your blog? Why did you think that you should sort of put this out there in a blog?
Why not? It was made abundantly clear to us during the meeting that this was information that we were welcome to share with our community. I'm privy to information all the time which is confidential and it goes nowhere. I don't leak. If it's public excluded, I don't discuss it. But part of my job as an elected member, I campaigned on a platform of transparency and accountability. If people tell me stuff that I think is of interest to the community, I am going to share it. And why shouldn't I? How can I be expected to be told stuff and have people say to me, it's okay to share that with your community, and then think, oh, well, I better not. You know, it might be that people... How do you make judgment calls about that? You know what I mean? It was said to us very clearly, this is information it is okay to share with your community.
Okay, what about the way that it was done? Should have someone else have put that information out there? Should it have been released to the general media or the general public in one way?
Well, wouldn't you think that if you were going to say to a group of elected members, it is okay to share this with your community, if you had any concerns about that, you should have done it yourself. Don't you think?
Why was Mayor Parker so upset, though, that you had released it?
I have no idea. I mean, I haven't released anything. I have repeated what was said to us at a meeting where we were told it was perfectly okay to share it with our communities.
Okay.
Now, it might be that those who said that imagine that we talk to tiny little groups of 3 or 4 people or a Probus club or something like that. That's not the world we're in anymore. When I tweet, when I go on Facebook, when I write my blog, that is how I communicate with my community. That's social media. No longer is it the press or the radio or the television that dictates what it is that people get to understand. Media releases are circulated, whether they're true or not true. This was just factual information. People spread information now virally, and that is how the world spreads its information. You know, the days of the mass media as a part of that currently remain. But I think the communications, this is just one example of many. Communications of complicated information are being done now at grassroots level. You know, that information, all of the stuff in there about the eastern suburbs retreat, the rest of it, the 77%, you know, no chance thing, take that to one side. All of the retreat stuff has been cut and pasted out of my blog. It is on Facebook pages, support groups through the eastern suburbs now, and they are saying, we just want to be told if nothing's happening. We need a continual dialogue. That's the expectation that people have.
If you hadn't blogged about it, how would we have found out about it? Or when would we have found out about it?
I don't know. Somebody else would probably have done the same thing. As I say, this is information. If someone had said, look, you mustn't tell anybody this, I wouldn't have said a word.
You wouldn't have, yeah, okay. What about all the negative comments that you've been getting, or the feedback? People have been calling you.
I'm going to say to you again what I said to you before. Focus on the 77%. I've had a very small negative reaction. I've had a number of, literally in the single digits, phone calls to my home, and they have ranged from a couple who were, one who was extremely rude, but you should really deal with caller ID, love, yeah, stick, to people who were very, very grateful that I shared the information. That has been far and away. And you can read the comments on my blog, Kanita, they're all open. The only comments I have not posted on my blog relate to other information that was shared in confidence with elected members. I have not put those up. Aside from that, good, bad, ugly or indifferent, they're all up there.
Okay. It's social media now, isn't it?
It is social media. I mean, you know, I'm allowed to talk to you. If someone tells me something and it's public domain, I'm allowed to tell you. And I'm not going to withhold that. It's for you to decide what you do with that information. People are at the moment anxious. The best way to make people anxious is to make them feel like there's a great big secret about stuff. And I don't think the fact that we have 77% chance of not having an earthquake over a magnitude 6 in the next 12 months is actually bad news.
Okay. Where do we find your blog?
WordPress. Just Google it. Sue Wells blog will find it.
All right. Thank you for coming on the program.
Cheers.
Finally on the program, it is an honour to welcome Margaret Mahey and her dog Honey. Good to have you here.
It's a pleasure for both of us.
Honey is a beautiful dog.
Well, she's a good dog, and as you can see, she's very relaxed on an occasion like this.
Yeah, she must be used to it, is she? Now, you have had congratulations on your latest success with your book at the New Zealand Post Children's Book Awards, Book of the Year.
I was thrilled. I was thrilled, first of all, when it won the Picture Book Award, but I was thrilled and very surprised when it won the Book of the Year, because on the whole, I think picture books tend to be relegated when it comes to the Book of the Year, because, well, there's, you know, young adult novels and things like that I don't know, have a bit more gravitas or something like that.
So that's wonderful. Now tell me about the book. What inspired it?
I think it was David's idea originally. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something that set the idea for the story off. And it was a thrill for me to be working with a New Zealand illustrator. When I began in 1969 having books published, and I started off with picture books, they were all illustrated by people overseas. And sometimes when I wanted local elements incorporated, publishers over there would refuse to incorporate New Zealand elements because they said it would confuse their children.
Right.
I pointed out that, of course, New Zealand children weren't too confused by the American and British elements that came in picture books, but they weren't convinced with my argument.
Yeah. So what's inspiring you at the moment with your writing?
Well, I suppose language to some extent. There's always odd ideas that come. At the moment I've got a rather vague idea about washing on a line, which doesn't sound very inspiring, but I've got an idea about, you know, dignified sheets and pillowcases and things, and then at the very end of the line a little red ragged shirts that's much more lively and, you know, than the other things hanging on the line.
Yeah.
And I don't know if our mystery will develop from that, but the images are flicking through my mind, and
sounds good to
you
me.
never know.
Yeah.
It could be fun for an illustrator too.
What about things like the earthquakes here in Christchurch? You've been here during the earthquakes?
Oh, indeed, yes.
Something like that, would that be something you would put into a book?
Very easily, because, well, first of all, it's dramatic. Secondly, it just reminds us that the earth, which seems so secure, 9/10 of the time, has its moments of rebellion, and things fall and then are put up again, and there's all sorts of images connected with the earthquake, as well as adventures, which could make good stories, and already have to some extent, I think.
Yeah. What about honey? Has honey inspired any of your books yet?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
She has a dog's life. She has a character of her own, which is sometimes in opposition to mine, and she and the cat have a, well, I was going to say an ambiguous relationship. In the morning, Honey tends to chase the cat, but in the evening they both get onto my bed and go to sleep side by side.
Aww, that's nice.
And I think it would make a good picture.
Yeah, me too. So The Moon and Farmer McPhee, that was the book of the year. Now,
Yes.
how many awards have you won over the years?
I can't remember exactly, but I have won some, but usually for young adult novels and things like that.
So for
and,
a picture book, it's a bit different.
The picture book's different, yes. And I think, well, I think a triumph for picture books as a whole, because it suggests that they're part of the literature of the community and not just a thing that somebody writes over the weekend. I have had people suggest that a picture book text is something that's written on an evening or over the weekend, which occasionally may be the case, but with me it's usually a much more, a much longer process than that, and I do think about them. And I also think, I read them aloud to myself and everything like that, because the way they sound is very important. I imagine them being read to children. I imagine language having an impact to children, you know, who can't read for themselves yet. And I imagine children listening and enjoying the sound of words and becoming incorporated into our interlanguage. When I was very small, my father used to tell me a story that he made up, and it began, once upon a time there was a great big black-maned Abyssinian lion. I remember the beginning of it. Was before I went to school, and I remember the beginning of the story very clearly. And it always seems to me that the first book that I ever had published, The Lion in the Meadow, was unconsciously a memory of that lion that my father used to talk to me about. But I remember the sound of the word Abyssinian and, you know, things like that.
Before you went to school?
Before I went to school.
Oh my gosh. Just finally, what do you do now? You do still go around the libraries? Are you getting out of the
Very
community?
much less than I used to.
Yeah.
My voice is becoming increasing. I've used it, and it's becoming very much creakier and unreliable. And not only that, the wonderful thing is that at the present there are very many more readers and illustrators than there used to be in the past. And I think that, you know, from the over the years, it's been great the way things have developed in New Zealand, with the books we've had published, with the books that have been written, of course, with the pictures that have been drawn for them. And I just feel we've got a much richer area, certainly than we used to have than when I began.
Okay. Margaret, Mahey, such an honour to have you on the program
Look,
today.
it's a great pleasure. And of course it's wonderful to have a chance to talk about books.
It sure is. I love books too. Now that is City Life for today, and speaking about books, the CC magazine is out today, so pick up that. We do have City Life now on demand. You can go to ctv.co.nz and click on the on demand panel, and you will see all the programs from City Life, and you can get in touch with us. You can email me, Kaneta@ctv.co.nz. tv.co.nz. You can call us 3777 033, and of course you can write to us, PO Box 1100 Christchurch. Have a great long weekend.